So the season finale of Marvel's What If came out last week, and for me, it's almost definitely the most fascinating show the MCU's put out so far. Over its 9 episodes, it's introduced us to so many crazy new ideas and characters and storylines, which I thought would be the perfect topic to discuss today. The first thing I have to say is that it was really interesting to see the different approaches each episode took to making new stories. Obviously, creating a what if story opens up a bunch of different paths you could take, and it was cool seeing how each episode dealt with that. Episode 1, for example, followed the events of Captain America the First Avenger pretty closely, but changed the main character and showed how that would affect things. But episode 2 created an entirely new story that had way bigger effects on the whole universe, not just the events of the story. Both of these takes were able to make some really significant changes in different ways, either by showing how changing one character could lead to story playing out differently, or how one event going slightly differently could affect so many things that aren't even directly related to it. I enjoyed most of the episodes, but I do feel like a lot of them were held back so much by their runtimes. The majority of episodes were about half an hour long, but I think they would have been better if they were longer. For some episodes, like episode 1, the pacing was just too rushed, and it needed more time to tell its story, but other episodes, like 3, 5, and 6, just stopped right as they were about to get really good. Look at episode 5, it was a really solid episode that I enjoyed a lot, and right at the end it teased zombie Thanos with 5 Infinity Stones, which got me so hyped and excited, and then the credits just started rolling, at what would have probably been my favourite moment in the show. We'll take episode 6, which basically just ended halfway through its own story. I think if most of the episodes were a decent amount longer, then they would have been able to explore their ideas a bit better, rather than feeling rushed or not living up to their potential. On top of that, a few episodes had premises that I didn't really find that interesting. Like, Killmonger saving Tony Stark is a cool idea, but it was never one that really jumped out to me. Or Thor being an only child could lead to some really interesting long-term stuff, but the episode chose to focus on the short-term stuff and have him come to Earth to throw a party, which isn't the route I would have wanted to see it take, even if it was pretty funny. Most of the time, I think the core ideas are good, but the execution is what throws me off. One thing I like about the show is that it's not just tied to one genre. Some episodes are mysteries, some are tragedies, and some are flat out disasters, which I really appreciate because it means each story is something fresh and new. One complaint I've heard about MCU movies is that they all feel kind of similar, like they have to fit some sort of template, but What If doesn't have that problem because the writers have more freedom to be as crazy as they want. Adding on to that, I was really surprised at how dark some of the episodes got. They deal with some really intense and heartbreaking and scary stuff at times, like seeing the Hulk explode from the inside out, or seeing Doctor Strange's girlfriend die over and over again, or seeing what Ultron would do with all the Infinity Stones. I feel like some MCU movies are held back by the fact that they're owned by Disney, so they have to keep things family friendly, and this show proved me right about that, because some of these stories are so great, but if they were part of the main movies, I don't think Disney would have allowed them. Moving away from the story side of things, I'm a big fan of What If's animation. The character designs translate seamlessly from live action to animation, and new characters are designed really well. My dad said it looks kind of similar to Iron Man Armored Adventures or Spider-Man the new animated series, and I can actually kind of see where he's coming from. There is a slight resemblance, which is kind of cool. Every scene is animated with loads of detail, and there are so many references that I didn't even notice until other people pointed them out for me, which just shows how much care the animators put in. Also, in terms of writing, there are a lot of references to other movies that fans will appreciate a lot. There are small moments sprinkled throughout every episode that, if you're a fan of the MCU, will be nice little surprises, but there are also things that newcomers can appreciate as well. And the last thing I have to say is that I appreciate how episodic the show is. Up until the last episode, each story is separate from the other, which I thought was refreshing, because all the shows I've seen recently have had season-long storylines that need you to watch every single episode, and while I do like that approach, it's nice that What If doesn't have to be tied back to one story, and the only thing connecting all the episodes is the watcher. So, what did I think of What If overall? That's kind of difficult to summarize because the episodes were a real mixed bag for me, but my main point is that the show has a lot of potential. It has some really great animation and attention to detail, and I really like how crazy it can go with the stories it tells, and how it's able to explore its stories in more dark and intense ways than the movies. But the episodes were definitely held back for me by their runtimes. I think they all needed just a bit more time to either fully explore their stories or slow the pacing down a touch. Also, not all the concepts for the episodes in this season were ones I was interested in. That being said, the ones I was interested in were really amazing, and they definitely delivered on my expectations. So overall, I liked What If. Even if it hasn't reached its full potential yet, it's laid the groundwork for some really interesting plotlines to carry on into Season 2, and if you're a fan of the MCU, then I definitely recommend you go watch it.